So good morning everyone, and of course welcome. Welcome to this conference named The Italian Contribution in Addressing the Mixed Migration Flows in Bosnia and Herzegovina and in the Western Balkans. This conference is organized by IOM and by the Italian NGO IPSIA, which is leading a larger consortium of organizations implementing a project so-called BRAT. My name is Daniele Bombardi, and I am the head of the office of Caritas, regional office of Caritas Italiana in Southern East Europe, based here in Sarajevo. And today I'm very honored to be the moderator of this event. Let me start by greeting and thanking all of you attending this event. And in particular, I want to greet His Excellency Marco Di Ruzza, Ambassador of Italy here in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and all the staff of the Italian Embassy, which is here with him. I want to greet the representatives of the Italian Agency for Cooperation and Development, which are online connected. We will have the opportunity to see them later. I want to welcome all the ambassadors and the representative of the other embassies attending this event, and as well as the ministries and representatives of the institution from Bosnia and Herzegovina at national level, entity level, and cantonal level. In particular, I want to greet the representatives of the Ministry for Security and the Service for Foreign Affairs. And I bring the greetings from Mr. Sasha Ketzman, which has been hampered to come to the event because of another meeting. He will try to join us in a later stage. I want to greet all the mayors and the representatives of the municipalities from Bosnia and Herzegovina, which are here, and in particular the mayor coming from the communities which are dealing the most with the migration flows. Thank you and welcome to the representatives of all the international organizations, of course starting from IOM, which is one of the organizers of this event. And a great welcome, a warm welcome to the directors and representatives of all the NGOs, Italian and local NGOs, which are dealing with migration and social inclusion. In particular, I want to welcome the partner organization of the BRAT project, so IPSIA, Red Cross from Italy, Caritas from Italy, Caritas Bosne and Herzegovina, MFS-EMMAUS, and the Red Cross Societies of Bosnia and Herzegovina. And finally, I want to thank and welcome the representatives of the media, which have arrived in a nice number to speak and to report about this event. Just a couple of logistical information before we enter into the topic of the conference. So first of all, this conference will be in English and translated in local language. I want to thank the translators, which are doing a great job. And the headphones are available at the registration desk. So if someone of you is in need of the headphones, can ask there. In the chairs, you have the folders with the agenda of the event and some other useful material. I want to inform you that some of the speeches will be here in presence, while some other will be online. So I want to thank the technicians which are helping us in allowing this online connection. And the conference is also in this moment in live streaming through the IPSIA Facebook page. So I want to greet all the people which are online following the event. The conference will last more or less until 1:45, and then the lunch will be served in the lobby here behind me. So all of you, of course, are more than welcome to remain with us also during the lunchtime. For any other requests, the staff of the conference is available for you. So please just refer to the colleagues which are taking care of the logistics. Before giving the floor to the speakers, just let me share a very small personal experience. As an Italian, I am an Italian living for a long time here in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And as you know, my country has a long experience, 30, 40 years with the migration flows from the Mediterranean route and also from the Balkan route. And when the migration flow started in Bosnia and Herzegovina in 2018, I was immediately thinking, that this experience can be useful, can be put at disposal of the Bosnian and Herzegovina institution and communities which were dealing with a new phenomenon. We have some lesson learned, good practices we can put at disposal. But I was thinking mainly, what is the main mistake we should avoid in this phase? I clearly remember when the migration starts, so what we should avoid to do. And the answer I have is that when we deal with migration, the main mistake is to avoid to put the people ones against the others. Very oftenly, when we speak about migration, there are people against the migrants, people against the institutions because they are not doing properly their job, people against the hosting communities because they are not doing enough to welcome the participants. I think this is like very common, but this is the mistake we should avoid. On the opposite, I think we have to look all together to solutions which are taking into consideration all those kind of needs, the needs of the people on the move in their migration plan, the needs of the local authorities and the local institutions which are in charge of dealing such a complex phenomenon, and the needs of the hosting community, because it's not easy to welcome and to have in their own territory new presences coming from very, very far. So this is the spirit I would like to see during this conference today. We are all on board in the same boat, let's say, looking together for joint solutions in favor of the people on the move, in favor of the local authorities, in favor of the hosting communities. Now I would like to leave the floor to the main speakers for their opening and institutional greetings. In particular, I warmly greet Ms. Stefania Rizzaccaro, which is the representative of the Italian Agency for Development Cooperation in the Western Balkans, and she is connected online, so we will try to have her online. Thank you.
Good morning, dear Ambassador Di Ruzza, dear representatives of the local government of Bosnia and Herzegovina, dear Mrs. Lungarotti, implementing partners, and dear guests. It's my great honor and pleasure to be with you today to represent the Italian Agency for Development Cooperation from our head office for the Western Balkans in Tirana, on the occasion of the inaugural conference of the project Balkan Route and Welcoming Transit, BRAT. The title of the project and its acronym, which as I might know means brother in local languages, well captures the spirit and the main objective of the project to strengthen and diversify welcoming services that will benefit both migrants and the hosting communities. The project fully embraces our mandate, which, since the establishment of the agency, commits to the protection and promotion of human rights, of the dignity of individuals, of equal opportunities. It strives for the achievement of gender equality, the prevention of conflicts and the peacekeeping processes, and the consolidation and strengthening of institutions. Our commitment in this, therefore, is exactly that of applying this novel concept to every vulnerable person, thus migrants, and to respond to humanitarian needs on the path to sustainable development. At the same time, the voices of hosting communities need to be heard and considerably involved in this process, so that the identified supporting measure will foster the resilience of local communities. As we will have the opportunity to hear from Ambassador Di Ruzza later during the conference, this project is also part of wider support that Italy provides to Bosnia and Herzegovina and in the migration sector. Allow me to say that in that regard, the contribution of the Italian Development Cooperation in Bosnia and Herzegovina aims to provide support to ensure a well-managed safe, and efficient migration flow in line with applicable international and European standards, partnering and networking with local governments and institutions and with non-governmental actors and players represent the strongest instruments and the foster stability in the Western Balkan region. As in the words of our newly elected Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Mr. Tajani, the issue of migration is a priority for the Italian government, and Italy must play a peacemaking role in the Balkans until the region becomes European and achieves political stability. In fact, history tells us that an unsustainable situation only exacerbates the migratory flows. To conclude, let me express my appreciation to the participation of IOM to present within this conference the displacement tracking metrics, an instrument developed thanks to the financial support of the Italian government. As you can see, Italy is deploying a considerable and joint effort in Bosnia and Herzegovina and in the whole region to contribute to a safe, orderly, and sustainable migration process without neglecting the hosting communities, but on the contrary, fostering more resilient and prosperous societies and communities in Bosnia and Herzegovina, advancing toward the European Union. Thank you.
friendly and sustainable from the environmental point of view are the transit facilities and other forms of support that we are providing to migrants here in Bosnia and Herzegovina. For instance, one immediate result of a sustainability study that we conducted was the introduction of green-friendly construction technique and material for the new facade of Borici, which is one of the transit facilities in Unasana canton, which has been built with a state-of-the-art technology, and thanks to the inclusion of greener consideration is also able to save a lot of energy while it is used. So all in all, the support from the Italian Ministry of Foreign Affairs has been strategic and critical in terms of time frame in which it has been deployed. One element that I want to stress is the complementarity of intervention of all actors operating in the migration response. And the conference of today is demonstrating that. The project that you will hear, the BRAT project funded by the Italian Agency for Cooperation, is very much complementary to the intervention that other actors, IOM included, are implementing here in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and is part of a wider strategy led by the Ministry of Security in the management of migration, a strategy that is aiming to have the state authorities, the authorities, more and more in charge of the response and more in charge of the long-term solutions to be provided to migrants. So it is cohesive, it is coherent, and the meeting of today allows us to stress this once more. Last but not least, I want also to say that the AICS project, BRAT project, will be able also to maybe plant the seeds for some more long-term reflection regarding the type of accommodation here in Bosnia and Herzegovina, accommodation for migrants. As you know now, we have 4 collective center transit facilities which are working well and will be soon passed in terms of full management in the hands of the Service of Foreign Affairs. Now currently among the 4, only 1 is fully managed by the service, which is LIPA, and hopefully the other 3 will have also a gradual takeover by the authorities. The project BRAT allows also to think about other small-scale possible facilities that could emerge in the course of the coming years and possibly support more vulnerable groups according to specific profile and in line, of course, with the state strategy. So it allows us to maybe normalize a little bit more the phenomenon of migration and take the distances from a pure emergency response and move into more governance, if you wish, of this phenomenon. I think the bottom line consideration is that phenomenon is part of our daily life, is not a problem that needs to be fought, is not an emergency, but if well governed, could bring very much both to the origin countries as well as to transit and destination countries. So this is very much the motto of IOM, how to best to support authorities to better govern migration so that it doesn't become a problem, it doesn't become an emergency, it doesn't become a negative factor for society, but actually it could bring very much to all societies. So I'll stop here and I'll be listening to the intervention with interest, and I want to thank once more everyone here today. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Lungarotti. Thank you for your speech, but also thank you for your great cooperation we are having with you and with your offices. I think it's very efficient the way we are cooperating exactly in this complementary approach you were mentioning. There were some problems with the translation. I think they have been now solved. Please let me know if there are still issues with it. And I want to remind you all that there will be a session for question and answers at the end of the speeches. So if you have any question to address the speakers now or to the following speakers, please we will have the time later to address it. Now I would like to give the floor to His Excellency Marco De Ruzza, the Ambassador of Italy here in Bosnia and Herzegovina, which will present the overall Italian contribution to address the mixed migration flows here in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Ambassador, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Daniele. Dear authorities, dear guests, dear participants. First of all, I would like to thank the representative of the Ministry of Security of Bosnia and Herzegovina, of the Service for Foreign Affairs of Bosnia and Herzegovina, and of the Bosnia and Herzegovina Police Agency for being here today. Their presence is a significant proof of the commitment of the authorities of Bosnia and Herzegovina to effectively manage migration flows in the country and to engage in a very constructive manner with the international organizations and bilateral partners to strengthen cooperation. This engagement that Italy greatly values and appreciates has been more and more visible in the last month, and I personally had the chance to witness it both in the context of our bilateral dialogue with Minister Sikotic and during my visits to the Unasana canton, whose Prime Minister I warmly greet. Let me also thank our partners from the International Organization for Migrations, particularly in the person of the head of the Bosnia and Herzegovina office, Mrs. Laura Lungarotti, and from the Italian civil society organizations, here represented by our friend Silva Malaone from IPSIA, Daniele Bombardi from Caritas, a huge team from the Italian Red Cross in partnership with the Bosnia and Herzegovina Red Cross for allowing this precious opportunity of dialogue today, and for the outstanding efforts they make on this field. It is only thanks to their commitment and incredible work that today's event was made possible. Italy is deeply interested in further strengthening bilateral cooperation and international cooperation in the area of migrations. A very concrete evidence of this commitment is the fact that the first European country that has been beneficiary of a contribution from the so-called Migration Fund of the Italian Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation is exactly Bosnia and Herzegovina. That contribution has allowed the start of the project implemented by IOM named Strengthening the Community and Evidence-Based Migrations Response in Bosnia and Herzegovina and Enhancing Data Collection on Migrants in the Western Balkans. This contribution offered as well a very important tool to support the construction of the new LIPA Reception Center, which was indeed an important leap forward compared with the previous structures. Mrs. Lungarotti has been a precious partner in the identification and implementation of this project, and I wish to thank her once more for her invaluable commitment. The long-standing presence of the Italian NGOs, such as IPSIA and Caritas Italiana, apart from the Italian Red Cross, that have been operating on this field, especially in Unasana canton for years, delivering support to migrants centers with contribution from Italian private and public donors, is also priceless. That is why the Italian Development Cooperation Agency decided to endorse with a considerable financial contribution the project Balkan Route Accoglienza, the BRAT, proposed by a consortium of Italian NGOs such as Caritas and IPSIA. The director of the Tirana Regional Office of the Italian Development Cooperation Agency, Mrs. Stefania Vizzaccaro, has already provided you with precise information on the rationale behind this project and on the commitment of our development cooperation. I wish to thank Stefania Vizzaccaro for her dedication in that regard. Let me also recall some other initiatives promoted by the Italian authorities in the past few years. Our support to the Red Cross Society of Bosnia and Herzegovina at the end of 2020 saw the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent for their assistance to migrants in reception centers, with particular attention to support the LIPA camp and establishing a model emergency unit. The Italian Red Cross Society has joined these efforts by providing additional financial and in-kind resources and technical support to their Bosnia and Herzegovina counterparts. The capacity building and knowledge exchange project implemented by UN Refugees Agency in the field of refugee status determination in favor of officers of the servers for foreigners of Bosnia and Herzegovina, who had this year the possibility to take part in study visits in Italy with Italian counterparts from the Italian Ministry of Interior and the Territorial Commissions for Asylum. The European Union APAID funded program on countering serious crime in the Western Balkans, whose new phase started in 2020, and which is implemented by the Italian Ministry of Interior for the police cooperation component. In the framework of this project, a senior police officer from the Italian Ministry of Interior has been deployed in the Western Balkan 6 countries, also in Sarajevo then, to cooperate with police forces at the state and local level. I hope that by recalling all these initiatives and joint endeavor have been able to provide you with an overall clear picture of the importance that Italy does attach to cooperation in the management of migratory flows and of our commitment also from the financial point of view to bolster Bosnia and Herzegovina authorities in facing these important challenges. It is key to have a strategic dialogue between Bosnia and Herzegovina, the European Union and the European partners. In this perspective, we welcome the initiative of the Ministry of Security to organize the Sarajevo Migration Dialogue, which has already come to its second edition. The new Italian government is fully committed to continuing this engagement in the framework of the unwavering support that our country has ensured to the European integration process of Bosnia and Herzegovina and the whole Western Balkans. The new Italian Minister for Foreign Affairs, Honorable Antonio Tajani, has recently renewed this commitment upon his participation to the Berlin Project Summit and also highlighted his attention to the Western Balkans and the migratory flows in this region. I'm personally very proud of what Italy has been trying to do in Bosnia and Herzegovina in this sector. Professionalism and humanity are the two sides of our engagement. Through IOM, for example, we have been able to support the innovative displacement tracking matrix tool, while our civil society organizations have been constantly present in reception centers, bringing assistance to those in need, without ever forgetting that migrants are, first of all, humans that deserve dignity. Whoever had the chance to walk through the LIPA Center will have a clear perception of how much Italy is present and has been contributing with all its heart. Thanks again for all your efforts and for your cooperation.
Thank you very much, dear Ambassador, and thank you for your kind words. Also refer to our own organizations. I like a lot this professionalism and humanity that you underline. I think it's a very key element in all our initiatives. Now I would like to ask you to come back to the seats and to call the new speakers. Just allow us a couple of minutes to organize it. So I would like to call Ms. Silvia Marraone, country coordinator of the NGO IPSIA. I would like to call at the table Mr. Becky Aidini, DTM coordinator from IOM. And also I would like to invite Mr. Mirzad Buzar from the Service for Foreigners Affairs to sit here at the table. In this second part of the conference, we will enter more into the details of projects, of the initiatives which are ongoing, which have been presented and introduced briefly by Ms. Lungarotti and by the Ambassador Di Ruzza. I would like to underline that even if we are mainly Italians, we are still on time. So this is a very incredible, good result. So I would like to invite the next speakers to continue in this line. So first of all, Silvia, thank you very much. I leave you the floor to present. Of course. So I will leave, sorry, excuse me, I will leave the floor first to Mr. Buzar. Thank you.
Dobar dan, u ime Ministarstva sigurnosti i službe za poslove s strancima, vaša ekscelencijo ambasadore, predstavnici Direkcije za koordinaciju policijskih tijela, predstavnici međunarodnih nevladnih organizacija, evo nekako, obzirom da smo par puta već i pomenuti kao služba za poslove s strancima i kao država, imam evo potrebu možda da se i obratim prije ovog nekog dijela koji se odnosi na samu prezentaciju od strane IPSIA. Prije svega evo što smo govorili o podršci italijanske vlade i vlasti Bosni i Hercegovini u procesu upravljanja migracijama, koristim priliku da se zahvalim naravno na podršci vlade Italije koja nam je zaista bila značajna. I evo mislim da je gospođa Lungarotti pomenula Lipu i jednu značajnu podršku nakon svega onoga što se dešavalo na Lipi. Evo ja želim samo da to potvrdim i da kažem zapravo da ovdje i među vama prije svega vidim mnogo prijatelja, ali i ljudi sa kojima sam zajedno nakon Lipe prošao mnoge stvari koje se ticale pomoći i podrške migrantima na samoj Lipi. Evo pored mene sjedi Silvija koja je zaista od prvog dana bila prisutna sa nama kada smo, evo i kada je izgorio kamp, kada smo uspostavljali šatorsko naselje oružanih snaga, čak i na -20 stepeni bili gore i gledali da damo što bolji odgovor, pružimo što bolji odgovor i što prije završimo taj proces kako bismo mogli migrante smjestiti u šatore oružanih snaga kako više ne bi bili pod vedrim nebom. Kažem, značajna je podrška, evo ne samo Italije, mnogih drugih zemalja, evo tu je i Caritas, dakle prisutan predstavnici Caritasa, predstavnici mnogih drugih organizacija, nećete mi zamjeriti ako nekoga možda izostavim jer ne poznajem sve ljude lično tu. Evo tu je i gospodin Huska iz Crvenog križa, Unsko-Sanskog kantona. Kažem, mnogo smo toga prošli i mislim da smo i na dobrom putu. Evo, kada pogledamo izvještaj o napretku Bosne i Hercegovine, čini mi se da je jedna od svijetlih tačaka ipak proces upravljanja migracijama u Bosni i Hercegovini, što je potvrđeno, kažem, i kroz izvještaj o napretku Bosne i Hercegovine ka Europskoj uniji. Mnogo toga smo uložili, naravno, evo, naš glavni partner u svim ovim procesima jeste i Međunarodna organizacija za migracije. I ono što je gospođa Lungarotti rekla, a što je jako važno, jeste da je država počela taj proces preuzimanja i privremenih prihvatnih centara, da pored Lipe kojom upravlja služba za poslove strancima, vrlo značajan moment se desio kada je Direkcija za koordinaciju policijskih tijela preuzela sigurnosni aspekt privremenih prihvatnih centara u Bosni i Hercegovini. Dakle, država se sve više, rekao bih, involvira u sve procese upravljanja migracijskim procesima u Bosni i Hercegovini. Evo, žao mi je, premijer je vjerovatno izašao, vraćao se kratko, ali ono što je važno jeste kada čujemo glas lokalne zajednice. Slušali smo glas lokalne zajednice 2018. i 2019. godine koji nije baš bio naklonjen, evo, da se tako izrazim, niti Sarajevu, niti vlastima u Sarajevu, niti Ministarstvu sigurnosti i službi za poslove sa strancima. Ali vremenom smo uspjeli, mislim, promijeniti apsolutnu sliku oko toga šta se dešava u Bosni i Hercegovini. Jednim trudom, zalaganjem i zajedničkim radom smo došli do zaista dobrih rezultata koji su prepoznati, kažem, i od strane Europske komisije, ali i od strane lokalnih vlasti. Kada me pitaju kakva je situacija u Bosni i Hercegovini, ja kažem, vidite, ja zaista želim da čujem šta kaže lokalna zajednica, šta kaže premijer Ružnić, šta kaže gradonačelnik Fazlić. Oni su mi najbolji primjer toga kakva je situacija trenutno, jer je Unsko-Sanski kanton bio najviše zahvaćen migracijskim procesima u Bosni i Hercegovini zbog svoje teritorije i blizine granice Hrvatske ka Sloveniji i ka Schengen prostoru. Kada oni kažu da je sve ok, da je zaista dobro, da je situacija zaista dobra, onda ja mogu reći ok, mislim da smo uradili dobru stvar. I upravo taj proces tranzicije koji smo pokrenuli je veoma značajan da država zaista upravlja svim procesima. Ministarstvo sigurnosti se zaista u prethodnom periodu trudilo da napravi što bolju koordinaciju kako između unutar sigurnosnog sektora u Bosni i Hercegovini, tako i unutar međunarodnih i nevladnih organizacija. Kada kažem međunarodnih nevladnih organizacija, mislim prvenstveno na određene projekte koje sve te organizacije rade na terenu, koje provode na terenu. Mislim da smo imali 1-2 konferencije, kada je ministar zamolio sve organizacije da ipak prije bilo kakvog prijedloga projekta da se konsultuju sa Ministarstvom sigurnosti oko prioriteta koji se u tom trenutku, rekao bih, traže, odnosno traži se njihovo ispunjavanje, jer Ministarstvo sigurnosti se kreira i provodi politiku u oblasti migracija i azila. Dakle, imamo strategiju, imamo akcijne planove, imamo sve i u tom smislu određujemo i neke prioritete. Evo, ne bih zaista dalje dužio da možemo nastaviti sa programom, ali evo koristim priliku, kažem da vam se još jednom zahvalim svima vama koji sjedite ovdje, svim organizacijama, svim vladama, ambasadama, na značajnom doprinosu koji ste dali i pomogli Bosni i Hercegovini da prevaziđe ovaj problem. Mislim da je Lipa upravo bio najveći test i sigurno najteži moment u Bosni i Hercegovini kada je izgorio kamp Lipa i kada je skoro 1000 ljudi ostalo bez krova nad glavom. Znate koje su sve mjere preduzete da bi se ta situacija prevazišla, ali evo, zbog određenih stvari to se nije moglo provesti. Bila i Bradina u opciji, objekat oružanih snaga koji su tada ponudili, ali se i od toga odustalo, nije se moglo provesti. Dakle, kažem, još jednom se zahvaljujem svima, zaista ispred službe za poslove strancima i Ministarstva sigurnosti i mislim da smo uvidjeli da samo zajedničkim radom, zajedničkim snagama, zalaganjem i koordinacijom aktivnosti možemo postići mnogo. I upravo se to dešavalo, evo, protekle 2 godine, gdje je snažnija koordinacija aktivnosti dovela do jako pozitivnih rezultata koje je napravila Bosna i Hercegovina i evo, njegova ekscelencija ambasador Društva je pomenuo i Sarajevo Migration Dialogue. Imali smo, dakle, drugi Sarajevo Migration Dialogue ove godine i mislim da je ta konferencija postala zaista prepoznatljiva kako u regionu, tako i u zemljama Evropske unije. Mnoge poruke koje smo čuli sa te konferencije od evropske komesarke Johansson, od austrijskog ministra unutrašnjih poslova, od švicarske ministrice unutrašnjih poslova koja je bila tu, su zaista išle u onom pravcu da je urađeno mnogo u Bosni i Hercegovini i da je postignut značajan napredak. Kažem, to ne bismo mogli bez vas uraditi i evo, siguran sam da ćemo u narednom periodu jačati našu saradnju u tom pravcu, dakle, jače koordinacije aktivnosti kako bismo, evo, na što bolji način mogli odgovoriti izazovima koji su pred nama, koji donose, evo, ova mješovita migracijska kretanja u Bosni i Hercegovini i da, kažem, pružimo što bolji i efikasniji odgovor i, evo, kažem, neću zaista dužiti. Još jednom svima zahvaljujem i hvala vam što ste došli na konferenciju, da ipak čujete sve ovo što je do sada urađeno i da vam se prezentuju neki projekti koji su zaista od značaja za Bosnu i Hercegovinu. Hvala.
Thank you very much, Mr. Buzar. I will leave the floor then to Silvia to present those projects you are also mentioning. And of course, I also would like to remind again that the cooperation with your offices, with your ministry is extremely important and relevant for a, let's say, normal and ordinary management and governance of the migration flows. We were also, all of us in Lipa, and thanks God, 2 years after, we are speaking about a much quieter, let's say, and normalized situation, avoiding those kind of emergencies. So Silvia, please, the floor is yours. Silvia is the country coordinator for the NGO IPSIA, and she's also the head of the project BRAT. So Silvia, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Daniele. Hello, everyone. Buongiorno. Thanks to all colleagues and friends and other partners, organizations that helped us in the organization of this conference. Thanks to the interpreters and technician too. Okay. So I have the honor to present today the project BRAT, that in Italian has a meaning that is Balkan Route Accoglienza in Transito. We can say in English, Balkan Route a welcoming transit. This project has been financed by the Italian Agency for Development Cooperation, and it's led by IPSIA, together with a huge network of partners and friends that are EMMAUS, Caritas Italiana, Caritas Bosne and Herzegovina, Red Cross Italy, and the Red Cross Society of Bosnia and Herzegovina. So we had the chance to write this project. We are all organizations present in the country since long time. And in the last years, we have been working all in different places on the migration topic. That was somehow a new challenge for us. But as the ambassador and Mrs. Lungarotti already said, showed the capacity of the Italian network, or Italian organization, Italian people, let's say, to show this humanity that is very necessary when it's up on working with these people on the move. I don't like to call them migrants because somehow give some strange connotation. For us, they are all person, and I'm very happy to see that since 2018 until now, a lot of things has been done through the effort of the government of Bosnia and Herzegovina and all the organizations that are working with these people. Many of you are also present here today, and I'm very happy that this small network of 6 organizations that is on my back, on the logo that you see, represent also many other people and many other organizations that are working with us together in this last year. And now I'm trying to switch the slide, so I hope it will work. Yeah, so the project BRAT, and let's see how I will turn, but don't mind if I move sometimes. So the project BRAT is developed in 3 areas, and they are not, of course, casual area, but they are the Tuzla region, Sarajevo region, and Unasana region. As we know, these are the 3 point of entrance, of transiting, and of exit of the majority of the people on the move. The organizations that are inside this BRAT project are all present in these regions since long time for different projects before and for the migration topic now. So this is where we are going to work. As I already said, the network is represented by IPSIA, together with the Italian partners that are Caritas Italiana and the Italian Red Cross, together with our local partners that are the International Forum of Solidarity EMMAUS, the Caritas Bosne and Herzegovina, and the Red Cross Society of Bosnia and Herzegovina. The project is inserted somehow inside a bigger task and challenge, if I can say, that is involving all the non-governmental sector, all the institution, politics, and everyone that are trying to work on these so-called sustainable development goals. It's a huge challenge dictated by the Agenda for Sustainable Development. And the BRAT project in particular wants to stay inside the framework of the goal number 10, reduce inequality within and among the countries. In particular, the topic of the BRAT is inserted in this target 10.7, that is the responsible and well-managed migration policies, that has the aim to facilitate orderly, safe, regular and responsible migration and mobility of people, including through the implementation of planned and well-managed migration policies. How are we going to try to do this? We are going to do it in 3 years. This is how long will last this project. And I would remind that the contribution by the Italian government through the AICS is 3.6 million euro, with a local contribution from our NGOs of €500,000. So it's a huge project developed in 3 big areas in 3 years with a lot of, again, partners, institutions, colleagues, friends, and people involved. So the project BRAT will try to impact at political, cultural, and operational levels. We would like to assist somehow Bosnia and Herzegovina and the non-governmental sector on developing and introducing of new policies, new storytelling, and new structure that can help again on the management of the migration flow. And impact again want to achieve more efficient migration policies, improving the set of competencies at the institutional and non-governmental levels. Sorry, I'm reading a very small text here, but you can have it on the back. Sustainable management of the migration, and local public opinion should be more sensible to the topic, also because we are going to start with a campaign about awareness campaign about the different storytelling of the migration. The overall objective, again, of the project will be to help to facilitate an orderly, safe, and responsible migration in Bosnia and Herzegovina, with a specific objective to strengthen and diversify the accommodation services for the migrants, to improve the health and psychological condition, and to promote better relationship between migrants and local communities. How are we going to do this? At 3 levels, we have a strategy, the 3 axis strategies. One will be the operational level. Operational level in the sense to improve the psychological condition within the people hosted in the temporary centers by strengthening the psychosocial services in the 4 camps, Ušibak, Blažuje, Lipa, and Borići, where we are working through the social corner activities. This is an ongoing activity that we started in 2017 in Serbia, when we first started our psychosocial intervention after the humanitarian needs covered by different projects between 2015, 16, and 17. And any one of you that will enter in one of these 4 centers that I already mentioned will find us with this social corner project. It's a place where you can get a hot cup of tea or coffee, and in which we try to create a relationship not only with the people hosted in the camp, but also with the other organization. It's very important for us to have a good cooperation at all levels, so institutionals and also the other colleagues from all the other organizations that are working in camps and outside camps. And the other part of the operational level will involve the protection for the people living outside. In particular, here I refer to the Red Cross and the huge job they are doing with the outreach activities they are providing all over Bosnia and Herzegovina when it's needed. Another part of this operational level will be the development of new hospitality experiences, in particular community-based services for the most vulnerable categories of migrants or people on the move. We have already ongoing examples that there are some persons that need a different accommodation than the centers. In particular, there are vulnerable cases, single women, child, unaccompanied minors, people with disabilities, with mental necessities that are hosted in some safe houses that are already ongoing. And we are going to develop through this project together with the local services and the institution other places where the people that are in need can be hosted. Nobody says that these places, like these safe houses that we are opening now, will not be helpful also for the local population. We have an example in BiH in the sense that there is a safe house in BiH that is run by an organization, a local organization, GNSA1, and they are hosting not only migrant population, but also local population. These safe houses were born after the war for the women in need of protection. So everything that we are doing now is something that in any case remain, and it's aim for the vulnerable people, not only migrants, but again also the local people and everybody that is really in need. The second axis is the political and educational level. This conference is the first of 3 conferences that will be hosted in these 3 years on this project. So it's about a capacity building process together with our partners and stakeholders and, of course, the local population. And there will be other conferences in different parts of the Bosnia and Herzegovina. So, for example, in Tuzla and BH again, but there will be also study visit for the politicians and institutions that are already dealing with migration and for the organizations that are working on the field with the people on the move. So we want to strengthen the capacity, the competencies, the skills of all the segments that are involved in this process and these projects that are ongoing. The third axis will be the cultural and public opinion level. We have been going through different situations in all this year, and I'm sorry to say, but unfortunately, Italy is not a good example of what tolerance is sometimes and respect. We have now in this moment some situations that are very, hard. For example, when it's up to migrants coming in Italy through boats. So we have some kind of political issues, let's say, and still we need to show humanity towards the people. This is what we are called to. And sometimes comments from common people are very, not tolerant. I can say also racist sometimes. This happens in Italy, in Germany, in France, in Bosnia too. In every country, there will be people against migration, there will be people in favor. So we want to work on that storytelling, on these topics, wherever we are, in whatever country we are, treating the people again with dignity and recognizing them as human beings. So we are going to do it with an awareness campaign and supporting also the local community in exchanges with the people on the move and people from the 3 cities that I already mentioned, to get to know each other, recognizing the other as a person, as everybody of us can be in a difficult moment of the life. It's very important for having a different perception in this case of the migration and flows. As just to close, the expected results after these 3 years of hard job that expect us are the result one, it's increased level of assistance and services for the migrants. The second is improved health and psychological condition among the migrants. And the third result is improved perception of the local population towards the migrants. So I would like to remind you one thing only with the word of Socrates, that sentence that I like, that remind us, I'm not an Athenian or not a Greek, but a citizen of the world. And I wish to all the people on the move and to all of us, wherever we are from, to feel in this way, a citizen of a bigger world in which everybody can have a future, hopes, career, and whatever deserves. Thank you.
Thank you, Silvia, for the very clear and detailed presentation of the project. I remind again, if you have any question later related to the same project, you can address during the Q&A session. The next speaker will be again online. It is Mr. Giorgio Fruscione, a research fellow and publication editor at ISPI. ISPI is the so-called Istituto per gli Studi di Politica Internazionale, the Institute for Studies on International Politics. And he will present a speech related to the migration toward the European Union, which are the challenges, which are the opportunities for the countries in transit. So, Mr. Fruscione, the floor is yours. Just give us a moment to organize the technical connection. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can. Thank you.
Okay. So, good morning, everyone. Dobar dan svima. Buongiorno a tutti. My name is Giorgio Fruscione. I work as a political analyst at the Italian Institute for International Political Studies. And first of all, thank you for for inviting me and for giving me the opportunity to share with you some general thoughts and general views and opinions about migration. And so the first thing I would like to say, even if it could sound a bit trivial, is that migration is not a new phenomenon, is not a local phenomenon. It is older than the same international relations as we used to know them and as we used to study them at think tanks like mine. And it is a worldwide phenomenon with the worldwide causes and consequences. So what is new and what is local concerning migration is its politicization and the way it is the news. And I come from a country, Italy, where until yesterday, the complete national media coverage and the vast majority of national media outlets were completely focused on few migrant vessels transporting to Sicily no more than a few hundreds of people, and where people on move, as Silvia called them. This just to give you the how to say the picture of how politically sensitive could be the topic of migration in some region of Europe. But of course, migration is a politically sensitive topic in Italy, probably more than elsewhere, because of what has been happening in the last 6 or 7 years, and in particular since 2015, when the so-called refugees crisis started, and a crisis that has showed all our political weaknesses, all European weaknesses. And I will now share, if I can, a presentation. Can you see it?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. So in those years, so back in 2015, the regions of Europe that more suffered the consequences of this crisis, of this refugee crisis, were Italy and the Western Balkans, where by sea only arrived overall almost 1 million of people. So this was a huge crisis considering given the numbers, and it was a crisis that continued until 2016, when the numbers started to drop, and not because of the end of the wars that were provoking these refugees, namely the wars in Syria and Iraq, but because the EU and the single EU member states reached agreements with the third countries, and these third countries prevented new arrivals mainly because of illegal detentions, as in the case of Libya and of the agreements with Italy. So Italy is a country where there have been reported several cases of detention centers in which migrants are jailed in inhuman condition and have been tortured. On the other side, on the so-called Balkan route, this was closed after the deal reached by the EU with Turkey in 2016. But still, migrants we have seen have since then keep arriving both on Italian shores and along the Balkan routes. And this was possible because the network of smugglers has not been scratched. So looking at the current situation, we see that during the first 9 months of 2022, there has been an increase in the number of illegal border crossings. And according to Frontex data, the so-called Balkan route recorded the highest numbers, 106,000 new illegal border crossings. That is 170% more than last year. And at the second, in the second place, we have the Eastern Mediterranean route with 29,000 new illegal border crossing, and then that is 100 18% more than last year. And finally, we have Central Mediterranean route with 65,000 border crossing. It has 42% more than previous year. So why I'm quoting all these numbers, and what are these numbers telling us? Is this maybe the eve of a new crisis? So I would say that no, these numbers are for the moment not foreseeing a new crisis, because for example, if we take the figure for the Balkan route, we see that this number represents less than 15% of total border crossings of 2015, so the worst years of the so-called refugee crisis. And by saying this, I would like also to make a short focus on a small focus on the importance of the communication when we face the topic of migration. And I move to the next slide. And so the focus on the importance of communication and the importance to communicate data in the proper way, providing the proper contextualization, and the importance to use historical data to make a comparison, as I did with the number of new illegal border crossings in the Balkans. Because, for example, this number regards the, as I said, illegal border crossing for and not new arrivals. So, as we know, many migrants have been pushed back, and this means that this number doesn't represent 106,000 new arrival to the EU, but rather attempt to cross the borders. So this is just to give an examples, but the real point is that concerning the terminology, we have a clear difference between two sets of words, and I would say two media languages that have a clear delivery of policies. From one side, we have expressions and words like wave of migrants, migrant invasion, as I put here a picture from a British newspaper, and we have a focus of words on security issues. On the other side, we have another set of words, and we focus more on the idea of a humanitarian emergency, and we used to call these people with their with the specific category they belong to, so refugees or asylum seekers, and consequently we focus much more on the issue of solidarities. So this, in my opinion, is confirming that migration is a phenomenon that is manipulated by politics, and we can represent these two views and these two policies with two different expressions. From one side, we can't accept them all, and I use this sentence because this sentence has made the political success of many politicians, and not only in Italy. And on the other side, we can do this sentence from what Angela Merkel said when Germany accepted almost 1 million of refugees from Syria in Germany. So again, this difference, it's a confirmation of what we can do and what we cannot do, or at least it seems like this. Because, for example, if we move and we take the case of Ukraine, we see that according to the United Nations High Commissionaries for Refugees, the Russian invasion of Ukraine has provoked almost 8 million refugees from Ukraine, and these people has been going toward EU member states. In particular, these 4 countries has so far welcomed the highest numbers of Ukraine refugees. Poland in the first position, 1,470,000 refugees. Germany in the second position with 815,000. Czech Republic 450,000, and Italy at the fourth position, 160,000. So these numbers are equal, if not higher than the so-called than the numbers of the so-called refugee crisis of 2015. It is interesting, in my opinion, to note that some of these countries, namely Poland, for example, were back then among those more reluctant in receiving migrants, while now they are showing great solidarity. But why is this important? This is important because the clear difference here is no more between we can or we cannot. It is between we want or we don't want. And so another interesting figure regards the number of refugees from Ukraine registered for a temporary protection directive, 4,460,000. This figure is important because it tells us that this clear difference relates also to the general approach of the European Union. And so I will now focus on this, let's call it instrument or tool, and the other tools used by the European Union, because the temporary protection directive, and I'm quoting, was adopted in 2002 following the wars in Yugoslavia to provide immediate and temporary protection in the event of a mass influx of displaced persons from non-EU countries, and was triggered for the first time in response to the Russian invasion of Ukraine. So why is this important? This is important because this is the best proof, in my opinion, that the EU has the instruments, has the capacity, and has the resources. So what is missing here is rather the political will. And in all these years, so in these 20 years where during which we have not used this instrument, the EU has relied on the Dublin regulation that determines which EU member state is responsible for the examination of an application for asylum, that is the first country of entry to the EU. And after that, we as the European Union decide that in order to avoid the big burden and to prevent the big burden of application application at bordering countries, we decided for, and we opted for, the so-called externalization. And this externalization is the assistance and the finance of EU neighboring countries, like the countries in the Western Balkans. So given the fact that the Western Balkans are also candidate countries for the EU accessions, they were the main recipients of this externalization instruments that comprehends several elements. And for example, it's part of this policy, the diplomatic pressure that we have seen from the EU Commission on a candidate country, that is Serbia, for introducing visas for citizens from Tunisia and Burundi. And I'm citing this fact because this has happened a few weeks ago, and this was agreed not only because Serbia has to align itself with the visa policies of the European Union, but mainly because the citizens from these two countries were massively recorded entering the EU from the Balkan route. So this was an effective instrument, and I will move to the next slide. the externalization has been considered effective, and in the new multi-annual financial framework, let's call the new budget of the European Union, we see a huge increase of the budget that was ultimately approved. So for the period between 2021 and 2027, the EU will spend a total of 23.5 billion euro. And given that in the previous budget, the total expenditure was 12.6 billion, the budget was increased by 86.5%. However, the heading is divided into two clusters. So the first is for migration and asylum policies, so the first block of these columns. And the second cluster focuses on border management, so the second two below. And for the migration cluster, the increase was of 38%, while for the border management cluster, the increase was of 149%. So what does it mean? It means that the EU spent much more in preventing migrants to reach the European Union rather than in a functional reception and integration system. In other words, it seems like the priority is to protect borders from new migrants' arrivals rather than investing in the integration of future EU citizens. So it seems like the main goal is to defend Europe, and that migrants arriving to the European Union are mostly considered a side effect. And I will now conclude with some final considerations concerning our preparedness as continent, as an international organization, and as citizens of Europe and of the European Union, considering the fact that the new crisis will arrive and new crisis will create more migrants. We don't have numbers, we have some figures that are saying us that hundreds of thousands of new migrants will try to reach Europe and other regions of Europe. This mainly because of, for example, the climate change that will make life impossible in some world region, and mainly from sub-Saharan Africa or from Asia or Latin America, from where they will try to move elsewhere. And also regional instabilities that will erode life perspective, even in the absence of a war, as the case of Sahel is already showing, or social inequalities and social injustice that will increase the desire to reach for rights protection, both social and civil rights protections, as, for example, the political and social crisis in Iran is showing. And I will conclude with a sentence that, again, I apologize if it sounds a bit trivial, but it reminded my mind when I was shooting a documentary documenting the violence along the Balkan route. This was written in the wall of an informal shelter in Serbia, and read, if you don't like refugees, stop creating them. And I think that is as simple as effective, this sentence, because we as organizations and international organizations and experts, but also active citizens, we must promote a world that work on world and global crisis in order to make these people staying in their country, not because we don't want them, but because this is their first desire. No one will leave his or her house unless this house is a place where life has become impossible. And having said that, I stop the sharing, and I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fuscione. It was very, very interesting and very entering into the also EU framework, which is regulating the migration flows. I'd like just to make a comment on the last slides when you mentioned the social injustice, the social inequalities, which have no choice but to leave. This is very applicable also to the Balkan countries in the last years. So it's not only a matter of countries which are far away from here, but the forced migration, let's say in this sense, is a phenomenon which is affecting everyday life of the countries in this region. So a common approach will allow probably also the local citizens to remain and to avoid to be forced in migrating. Before giving the floor to the speakers from IOM and the Service for Foreign Affairs, I would like just to inform that the ambassador has to leave to help for other commitments. So if someone has questions for him, I invite you eventually to share it now. Otherwise, we will continue, and the questions will be later for the other speakers. So if someone has an urgent question to address to the ambassador. If not, I will leave the floor to Mr. Becky from IOM, the coordinator of this displacement tracking metrics data collection, which will present an overview of these migration flows, together with Mr. Mirza Buzar from the Service for Foreign Affairs. They will present also the results of this project, which is supported by the Italian Ministry of Foreign Affairs and implemented and guided by IOM. Please, the floor is yours.
Hvala vam još jednom. Dakle, ja ću samo se kratko osvrnuti na značaj DTM-a, a gospodin će predstaviti naravno rezultate koje mi svakog mjeseca radimo i svakog mjeseca otprilike imamo podatke sa terena. Međutim, evo, moram samo osvrnuti na prezentaciju gospodina Đorđa, gdje je na neki način napravio uvod o značaju DTM-a, odnosno o značaju informacija i pravih podataka. Zašto? Govorio je o jednoj političkoj sferi migracija koju je na neki način prepoznao i o brojevima i slučajevima kada se zapravo ta migracijska kretanja koriste u neke političke svrhe. Mi u Bosni i Hercegovini smo imali, odnosno imamo izbore svake druge godine. Čini mi se da je bio slučaj u Bosni i Hercegovini korištenja te migrantske situacije i u određenim predizbornim kampanjama. U tom smislu, dakle, važno je da imamo tačne brojeve, da možemo javnosti predstaviti tačne podatke. I u tom smislu, kada govorimo o DTM-u, o Displacement Tracking Metrics, veoma je važno, prije svega iz dva razloga, da imamo tačne brojeve migranata koji se nalaze izvan privremenih prihvatnih centara, ali sa druge strane da znamo koje su to i potrebe tih ljudi koji se nalaze izvan privremenih prihvatnih centara. Vraću se u neki period prije 2 godine i nakon Lipe. Nekada smo i mi iz vlasti bili iznenađeni podacima koje su davale pojedine organizacije o tome koliko migranata zapravo boravi u Bosni i Hercegovini. I ti podaci su bili dosta različiti od onih podataka kojima smo mi raspolagali. U tom smislu smo htjeli uspostaviti jedan sistem zapravo, sistem na osnovu kojeg bismo imali tačne podatke o tome koliko migranata boravi u Bosni i Hercegovini. Dakle, znamo tačne brojeve onih koji borave u privremenim prihvatnim centrima, ali je bilo dosta onih koji su boravili izvan privremenih prihvatnih centara. I zato smo se odlučili da uspostavimo jedan sistem i taj sistem se ogleda upravo u ovom DTM-u koji služba za poslove strancima zajedno provodi sa Međunarodnom organizacijom za migracije. Dakle, naši mješoviti timovi izlaze na teren, obilaze teren, sagledavaju situaciju i pored toga, kažem, što broje, odnosno prikupljaju podatke o tome koliko migranata boravi izvan pripremljenih prihvatnih centara, zapravo, kažem, sa druge strane gledaju i njihove potrebe. Posebno ako govorimo o maloljetnicima bez pratnje, ako govorimo čak i o profilisanju određenih ranjivih kategorija kojima bi trebalo ukazati bilo koju vrstu pomoći ili podrške u nekom što skorijem vremenu. I u tom smislu, kažem, veoma je značajno da imamo ovaj DTM i da imamo prave podatke koje možemo svakodnevno koristiti kako bismo mogli prije svega i planirati određene aktivnosti, ali sa druge strane kažem i da imamo pravi uvid u to šta se dešava na terenu. Moram se samo osvrnuti na jedan trenutak i onome što je govorila i Silvija, kada je predstavljala projekat i one neke tri tačke, odnosno 3 vrste pristupa i tako dalje. Kada govorimo o podršci migrantima izvan privremenih prihvatnih centara, i ta podrška je jako značajna. Međutim, moram reći da smo mi imali zaista određenih problema u Bosni i Hercegovini, kada se vratim na period 2-3 godine. Imali smo zaista dosta migranata koji su boravili izvan privremenih prihvatnih centara, koji su boravili, evo, ukoliko uzmemo u obzir Unsko-Sanski kanton u najvećem obimu, to je bio dom penzionera koji je bio u srcu grada Bihaća, to je bila, ne znam, mesna industrija, Bimes, stara željezara i tako dalje. Bilo mnogo objekata, 1000 migranata boravilo u tim prihvatnim centrima, ne u prihvatnim centrima, nego u tom nekom improvizovanom smještaju. I naša percepcija i naša odluka je bila da te migrante vraćamo i smještamo u privremene prihvatne centre. Zašto? Prije svega zbog njihove lične sigurnosti. Koliko uzmemo izvještaje i pogledamo izvještaje određenih organizacija, vidjet ćemo da smo imali slučajeve određenog i rodno zasnovanog nasilja i potencijalnih žrtava trgovine u takvim neformalnim smještajima. Dakle, ne može im se pružiti adekvatna pomoć i podrška, niti zaštita u takvoj vrsti smještaja. Zato smo bili opredjeljeni da zaista migrante smještamo u privremene prihvatne centre gdje će imati svu pomoć i podršku, pogotovo ovo što je predstavila Silvija, jedan značajan doprinos koji daje IPSIA i sve druge organizacije kada govorimo o privremenim prihvatnim centrima. I u tom smislu samo dakle želim da naglasim te stvari koje se tiču pružanja pomoći i podrške. Značajna je podrška, ali kažem značajna je podrška u onom nekom smislu da se prati i strategija, da se prati strateški pravci i države koja se određuje u tom nekom smislu kada govorimo o boravku migranata izvan privremenih prihvatnih centara. Mi smo imali mnogo situacija, žao mi je što premijer nije tu, gdje se ljudi žalili da su migranti ušli u njihovu imovinu, da su tražili, pisali su nama, pisali su ministarstvu, pisali su premijeru, pisali su gradonačelniku, evo Crvenom križu, gospodin Huska je tu, zna on to, kaže, oni su u našoj imovini, želimo da oni izađu iz naše imovine i tako dalje. Da ne bismo dolazili u te neke situacije, eto, molim, samo kažem da zaista imamo ovo u obziru kada pružamo bilo koju vrstu pomoći i podrške, dakle da znamo tačno šta radimo na terenu. Dakle, još jedno da naglasim, jako značajan projekat, jako značajno sve ovo što radimo, kažem, kako bismo imali tačne i brojeve, ali kako bismo i znali zaista koje su potrebe migranata koji se nalaze u Bosni i Hercegovini. Evo, hvala još jednom i evo zamolit ću kolegu da predstavi rezultate.
Hvala puno. Good morning, everyone. Your Excellency, Ambassador Ruzo, ladies and gentlemen, and dear colleagues. It is a great pleasure for me to present the results of the ongoing IOM project, strengthening the community and evidence-based migration response in Bosnia and Herzegovina and enhancing the data collection on migrants in the Western Balkans that is funded generously by the Italian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So the project has 3 main outcomes, and we have been implementing all 3 of them. And I would like to present you some of the key outputs that we have achieved so far while we are implementing this project. The first outcomes has to do with the authorities and humanitarian responders have access to the accurate, up-to-date data and enhanced knowledge on migration arriving to and present in the Western Balkans. So basically this is the DTM. So this component is covering the displaced tracking matrix and all the data collections in Bosnia and Herzegovina and throughout the whole Western Balkans. So far we have completed within this project 11 rounds of the DTM migrants presence outside the reception centers, and this was conducted in whole Western Balkans. One monitoring survey. So this is another module of DTN that we are implementing thanks to the juniors, to the support of Italian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So this component represents a deep analysis of the migrants' journey along the Western Balkan routes. Also, we have completed 2 key flow monitoring rounds in the exit points in Bosnia and Herzegovina. This is basically another module that we are implementing, and we have started to implement this year in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and gives us real-time data on the situation, trends, profile of the migrants at the exit points towards the EU external borders. We have also implemented one rapid assessment for the Ukrainian nationals in Montenegro. This was also funded by Italian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. We have been doing this immediately after the war broke out in Ukraine. So at the end of the March, we were able to do the first rapid assessment for the Ukrainians in Montenegro. Then continuing with the second one in May, and the third one we have just finished in Montenegro, and continuing with more rapid assessment throughout the Western Balkans where the Ukrainian nationals are present. And we have completed one capacity building for DTM and data collection for the SFA and the Red Cross in May 2022. With regard to the second outcome, which is enhanced cooperation with and strengthening the capacities of relevant stakeholders such as the Service for Foreign Affairs and Border Police, providing protection sensitive services to migrants in need in need, we have completed the following outputs. Support for construction of external and internal fences, recovering running and the maintenance costs, as well as other daily operations, both in the former provisional camp and in the new TRCs in Lipa site. Support for the TOT courses on CCCM to relevant 34 state and local level officials in Bosnia and Herzegovina, completed between 30th of October and 5th of November 2021. Which basically strengthen the capacities and preparedness of the 10 disaster-prone local communities of both the Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina and Republika Srpska, namely in Trebinje, Srebrenica, Sanski Most, Prijedor, Kalesija, Kakanj, Gradačac, Bijeljina, Bihać, and Banja Luka, to respond to the displacement with a gender-sensitive approach and protection. And the third output of this second outcome, support for the study visits of the government officials in Bosnia and Herzegovina involved in the management of migration in the country, with the aim of visiting reception and identification centers and long-term accommodations sites in the Mediterranean region. This study visit was completed between 30th of August and 3rd of September 2021. And we have the third outcome, which is the migrant response in Bosnia and Herzegovina increases the use of sustainable and socially responsible resources in the main migrant hosting communities. We have achieved one output within this outcome, which is implementation of a need and maturity assessment in terms of environmental sustainability of the TRCs, Važuj and Lipa, by an environmental sustainability expert. So the results of the assessment, which aim to present the most feasible interventions to be implemented, were presented at a dissemination workshop that was held together with the Embassy of Italy in Bosnia and Herzegovina on 20th of June 2022. So basically, those are the main achievements of so far of this project that is funded by Italian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Now I will present you some of the key findings and the DTM project implementation in Bosnia and Herzegovina and in the Western Balkans. So there are three main objectives of DTM that we are basically implementing in Bosnia and Herzegovina and the Western Balkans. Three of them has to do with assistance, strengthening, and improvement of the government, humanitarian, and protection stakeholders to better understand the scope and the structure of the migration flow in the Western Balkan region, but as well as set the context of the migration flow to Europe. So basically, also we try to improve the Western Balkan institutions and humanitarian actors' intervention based on evidence-based findings and supporting preparation of the action plans together with the government at the local, national, and regional level. On the right side, you will see the end users of DTM products. So mainly are the state authorities, and we call them decision makers, government operational agencies, humanitarian actors, UN and NGOs, of course, IOM, and we're also working very closely with academia and various research institutions in implementation of our assessments. Western Balkans, so far we have most of the results that we have achieved so far during the implementation of this project that started in 2021. 13 DTM rounds of the migrants presence outside the reception centers in the Western Balkans, 5 rapid assessments on refugees from Ukraine in Montenegro, North Macedonia, and in Albania, flow monitoring service of Bosnia and Herzegovina and in the Western Balkans, and 2 DTM key flow monitoring assessments in Bosnia and Herzegovina, at exit points. So of course, thanks to the funds that we have been able to receive from the Italian government, we have been able to develop all those modules that are so important for the implementation of the project. So in this slide, you will see the trends that shows the total arrivals in Western Balkan countries, starting from 2018 until the September this year. So obviously, we can see that this year, as the colleague mentioned previously, we have an increase of arrival of the migrants in the Western Balkans. So trends are continuing to increase. And although that the data for October are not ready yet, but it says that in October we might have a really great increase of the migrants in the whole Western Balkans. This is the countries. And this is the share, percentage of the share of the arrivals in the Western Balkan countries. Again, the data is from September 2022, because we are still working on the latest October data. So as you can see, Serbia, we have, from the whole stock of the migrants, 63.8% are currently in Serbia. In the Bosnia and Herzegovina, 12.1. In Albania, in North Macedonia, 10.8, Albania 6.7, Montenegro also 6.2. On the right side, you will see the nationalities, basically. Top nationalities per country. Syrians are in dominance in Albania, in North Macedonia, Serbia, Kosovo, while in Bosnia and Herzegovina and Montenegro, We have Afghanistan nationals who are top one nationalities. As you can see, Bosnia, number 2 are Burundi, and the third nationality in Bosnia and Herzegovina are Bangladeshi nationals. This is the overall map that we have prepared thanks to all the modules and data collections that we have conducted throughout the whole this division. So we have combined the information and the data from various detailed operations in the region, in Turkey and in the Western Balkans. As you can see, the land routes are used through, for the nationals from the Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Bangladesh, going through Iran, entering Turkey, exiting Turkey towards Greece or towards the Mediterranean, then continuing further towards the Western Balkans. When it comes to the nationals from Africa or Sub-Saharan Africa, as you can see based on the data that we have available, most of them, majority of them came through Turkey, basically. Now they're in Istanbul and further on continue towards the Western Balkans. And we have some nationalities that used also air route, for instance, the Cuba or India, and from Africa also we have Burundi that used the air route to arrive in the Western Balkans. This is a map that shows the internal routes within the Western Balkans. Again, the data is collected based on the various data collection models that we have implemented throughout the whole Western Balkans. The main entry point is, of course, in North Macedonia and in Albania. And then the route continues towards Serbia, and then is dispersed. One line goes up towards Hungary, the other one ends up in Bosnia and Herzegovina, while the Albanian route continues towards Montenegro, then towards Bosnia and Herzegovina, and once one continues towards Kosovo, and towards Serbia. So, as you can see from the right side, as we mentioned several times, we have increase in arrivals in Western Balkans. For this year, is so far till end of September, is over 35% higher. Those are facilities, migrant reception facilities that we have in the Western Balkans. The data is up to date for October this year. So we have a slight decrease of migrants who are residing in a reception center. So September it was over 10,000. Now it's a bit less. So you can see the locations, you can see the number of facilities, and what's the occupancy right now. By the end of October. So, of course, Serbia is leading, and of course, number 2 is Bosnia and Herzegovina by occupancy of temporary reception facilities. This is the module that we implement together with SFA in Bosnia and Herzegovina and with other institutions throughout the Western Balkans on the presence of the migrants outside the reception centers. As you can see, the data that the latest one that we have for October 2022 for the whole Western Balkans, there is a dramatic increase, let's say, in the presence outside the reception centers in the whole Western Balkans. So through our exercise, we have been able to track estimation of 1,450 migrants who are residing outside the reception centers. And based on the data that we receive also from Serbia, because in Serbia this exercise is done by local authorities, namely by the Commissariat for Refugees and Displaced Persons. And from the last month, they started to share also data with us. There are 2,500 migrants who are residing outside the reception centers also in Serbia, which in total brings around 4,000 irregular migrants who are residing outside the reception centers in the whole Western Balkans. This is another module that we have implemented basically in Western Balkans. It's called flow monitoring survey. So it's a survey that collects quantitative and qualitative data on the different aspects of the trends, of the profiles, of the intention, and basically vulnerabilities and other aspects. So this is indeed the key flow monitoring point, one of the studies that we have implemented in Bosnia and Herzegovina, or the model that we have started to implement recently. And as you can see from the results, it shows that 95% of the migrants in Bosnia and Herzegovina at that moment for this survey have been staying in Bosnia less than 3 months, that this indicates high mobility of the population. So more than 50% have declared that they had traveled with a facilitator, basically had them to enter the country, indicating the possibility of human trafficking or the smuggling. 99% of the migrants who attempt to enter the EU also declared that they were pushed back by the authorities, but they also declared that they will try again to cross the border in the near future. With regard to the destination countries for this specific study at the exit point from Bosnia towards Croatia, namely it was done in Imosina canton. Italy was the most preferred destination with 57%, France 18%, and Germany 15%. Majority of nationals who were interviewed or who were spotted at exit points were Afghanistan nationals and Pakistan nationals, consisting about 80% in total, and the other percentages from other nationalities. So this is a similar module that we implemented, but this is for the whole Western Balkans. So those are some of the key findings that we have on the latest study that we have conducted in August and September. When I talk about the whole Western Balkans, the number of top nationalities are Afghanistan with 25%, Southern Arab Republic 10.8%, Pakistan 12.6%, Morocco 9.7%, and India 6.1%. So those traveling with families or relatives, nearly half, 45.5%, were traveling with children. 31.8% of the children interviewed were traveling alone, and 10% of the women interviewed were traveling alone. This is specifically relevant as they belong to more vulnerable groups, which, especially in the migration context, are more exposed to some of the violence, exploitation, or abuse, with limited ability to avoid, resist, cope, or recover. So we are continuing the same models of flow monitoring survey that was conducted August, September. The main reasons for in the Western Balkans, so the main reason for to declare basically the war and conflict, consisting of 43.7%. Economic reasons are the second reason basically as a main driver of moving out of their country of origin with 34%. Then continues with related basic services, 8%. So environmental changes. This is also very interesting findings that recently appear in all our modules. So we have more and more responders who are referring to the environmental issues and the climate change. And 2.8% targeted violence. When it comes to the whole Western Balkans, through this module, the top 3 destination countries are Germany with 25.8%, Italy 19.2%, and France 13.5%. Also, we have the component or the questions that we ask on protection concerns. So 43% of the migrants have encountered at least one problem during the journey that is ranging from robberies, thefts, including of civil documentation, to health issues such as leg injuries, fever, and mental health problems, as well as lack of food or shelter. Those problems were mainly reported in Turkey, Greece, and then all the Western Balkans by Serbia, Albania, and Croatia. 20% of migrants on the road have directly experienced some form of abuse, violence, or exploitation. This proportion is higher for specific nationalities, such as Afghans, 30%, or Pakistanis, 37%. Which could basically indicate that the smuggling network targeting specific groups may use more violence and coercion than the others. Here we have the coastal journey, so you can see 38.1% of the migrants have reported that they have paid between 2,500 up to 5,000 US dollars for their journey, and about 9.1% more than 5,000 US dollars. Recently, we are probably aware of the surge of the Syrian nationals in the Western Balkans last 2-3 months, mainly in several countries in the Western Balkans, North Macedonia, Serbia, Albania. So we have deployed our team in those places to conduct a customized survey on Syrian nationals, trying to understand the recent surge and the reasons why right now we have a surge of the Syrian nationals towards the Western Balkans. We just have finished this study a week ago. Those are some of the key findings that we have so far. So most of the Syrians that we have interviewed in all this area are single males, so 70%, and about 9 years old. When we talk about education profile, 45.5% have finished primary education, and 25% secondary education. 96% of them are traveling in groups. Out of which, this is important, 81% are traveling in one family groups. And of course, 85% of them have traveled by walking. Around half of them have been facilitated by someone to cross the border. Out of this number, now it depends from country to country, but the range is between 85 and 80% have been requested payment or other services. One reason is most of them, vast majority of them are coming from Turkey. And the main reason of moving out of Turkey are basically the economic reasons. 38% and general insecurity are a few or both, so about 34%. When I talk about the final destinations specifically for the Syrians, Germany is number 1, 65%, Netherlands 9.4%, Austria 5.9%, and UK 4%. And in the section about the needs of immediate needs of the Syrians, 58% of them are the food and water, 20% are in need of accommodation, 38% are in need of clothes and shoes, and 28% are in need of bathroom and washing facilities. Also, we have conducted several Ukrainians. This is the estimated presence of Ukrainian nationals in the Western Balkans based on the data that we received from the authorities. As I mentioned earlier, we have conducted several rapid assessments. The most immediate needs the employments are related to the housing, tracking spaces for children, store enrollment, psychosocial support. And also the majority of the class interested in finding a job in the country where they currently reside. When it comes to the profile lines and children. So, thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Aidini. And it's really very interesting, and there is a lot of food for thoughts for all of us by looking at those numbers and those analysis. I think there is quite a worried situation of security and protection for many people along the Balkan route, as you have been very well presented and explained. Now we have some more time for any kind of questions or comments from you that can be addressed, of course, to the speakers, to the person which are here in the room. So I would open, let's say, the floor for anyone, and please don't be shy. Any question? If not, I will break the ice. I have a question exactly related to these worrying numbers about the vulnerable people. It's a question to be addressed to Silvia, which is here, to Mr. Misad, to Laura also. I would like just to have a few words more, if possible, on these community-based services, especially the accommodation, the safe houses. So we have heard that there is quite a established system in place of accommodation into the camps. And now there is more and more interest in opening or establishing alternative accommodation, especially for the vulnerable groups. So maybe if you, Mr. Misad, or if you, Ms. Laura, you can say a few words more about the plans or the strategies in diversifying the accommodation out of the camps. And also you, Silvia, if you want to say a few words about this topic for the vulnerable people that you mentioned, which are the experiences already in place that you know, and how it can be further developed.
Yes. So talking about accommodation or diversifying accommodation, it's a sensitive topic. I cannot deny that, because there is always this tension, of course, in between finding the right balance between security, inclusion, social services, and vulnerable groups. At the moment, I would say that the 4 collective centers are not to the full of the capacity. That's important to specify. We have 4,500 beds in 16 overall, and 60% of them are currently used. So we have still a lot of accommodation capacities within the existing transit facilities. However, in addition to these 4 transit facilities, there is oftentimes the need of catering for specific vulnerable groups. Some of these groups have been mentioned. They are unaccompanied and separated children of maybe a specific age group that has difficulties in being accommodated in collective centers. We are talking about victims of trafficking who, by nature of the crime they've been subject to, are needing a specific safeguarding. We're talking about LGBTI community, even though there is an overall debate of not wanting to discriminate LGBTI community and therefore making sure that even within bigger accommodation, they have a safe place to live. So that's all this series of consideration are triggering some reflection around the existing alternatives. I think Silvia has already mentioned there are a number of NGOs who are running successfully safe shelters for some of these categories. They are not under, let's say, the network of support of the state authorities, but they are in a way tolerated and supported at large by the state authorities, even though they obviously always walk on this thin line in between being of support to vulnerable groups, but at the same time making sure that the state is also controlling their presence and they know how many people are accommodated. So there is this discussion now on what can be done to maybe diversify or strengthen some of this support structure. I'm thinking about some of those who are, for instance, in Zenica, supporting specifically victims of trafficking. In Unasana, we have now a good initial pilot initiative in Kakani with the mayor of Kakani, who has created a very, very small accommodation for one family, one refugee family. So we are looking more closely into those and try to see how much they are sustainable, how much they can be controlled and understood and known by the state and by the authorities, because they need to be on top. And at the same time, will they represent an alternative to collective center? Will they allow better maybe dialogue, integration, understanding by the local communities? In Italy, there is this, I would say, model of accoglienza diffusa, which in English could be maybe translated by saying that the hosting facility are spread across the territory of Italy. Accoglienza diffusa, or this model, allows basically every region to have an allocation from the state to manage small-scale facilities. They are closer to the local population, they allow some form of social integration, and they allow the region directly to manage those funds directly. So there is some school of thought that are thinking that this is possibly a right model, less expensive, closer to the host communities. But of course, he has his own downsides of less control, more scrutiny maybe by the local population. So there are pros and cons of both models. So basically, these are the reflections which are currently ongoing. And we keep discussing with all local authorities, with the central state authorities, to see what would be the evolution going forward in a logic of normalization on how migration is managed in the future, also in Bosnia and Herzegovina, because it has been said today by many, it's a phenomenon, it's not an emergency, and it has to be governed as any other phenomenon happening in the country.
Kad govorimo dakle o trenutnim kapacitetima, evo kao što je gospođa Lungaroti rekla, negdje oko 60% je popunjenost trenutnih kapaciteta u privremenim prihvatnim centrima. Ono što je jako važno naglasiti da je veoma mali broj migranata koji borave izvan privremenih prihvatnih centara, ali moram naglasiti još jednu stvar, da su u proteklom periodu zapravo zatvorena 3 privremena prihvatna centra u Bosni i Hercegovini. Jedan su zatvorile lokalne vlasti Unsko-Sanskog kantona, mislim da znamo priču oko Bire svi, ali su druga 2 privremena prihvatna centra na području Unsko-Sanskog kantona zatvorena zapravo od strane države. Jedan je kamp koji su koristile ranjive kategorije u hotelu Sedra, koji je teritorijalno pripada općini Cazin, a drugi je u Velikoj Kladuši Miral. Dakle, kako se smanjio broj migranata u Bosni i Hercegovini, kako nije postala potreba za smještajem tolikog broja migranata, a imajući u vidu da su to bili objekti koji su privatno u vlasništvu, gdje se značajan dio sredstava odvajao i za plaćanje tog najma, dakle, odlučeno da se ti privremeni prihvatni centri zatvore i sada, kao što smo već nekoliko puta pomenuli, 4 privremena prihvatna centra su rekao bih, u opticaju u Bosni i Hercegovini. I jutros, čini mi se u podaci, negdje oko 2700 migranata boravi u sva ta 4 privremena prihvatna centra. Dakle, imamo jako povoljnu situaciju, jako povoljnu u smislu da se susrećemo sa blagim porastom kada govorimo o prilivu migranata u Bosnu i Hercegovinu, ali da se i dalje sa tim brojem može upravljati i da, ono što je najvažnije, kažem, imamo dovoljan broj mjesta u privremenim prihvatnim centrima, a te ljude možemo smjestiti. Zašto kažem da ih možemo smjestiti? Zato da apsolutno izbjegavamo one slike, ako se sjetite, svi Velike Kladuše i čuvene šume Šiljkovače i mnogi drugih objekata gdje su migranti boravili čak i tokom zime, mislim da trenutno, bar prema podacima kojima mi raspolažemo, da se ne može očekivati neki veliki priliv migranata u Bosnu i Hercegovinu da bi nam blokiralo neke kapacitete. Naravno, mi imamo na raspolaganju i azilantski centar u Delijašu, koji se može ponovo aktivirati ukoliko bi bilo potrebe, ukoliko bi toliko značajan priliv migranata bio u Bosnu i Hercegovinu, a da trenutni kapaciteti prihvatnih centara ne bi mogli prihvatiti taj broj migranata. Naravno, kada je zatvoren privremeni prihvatni centar Miral u Velikoj Kladuši, Ministarstvo sigurnosti je uputilo i jedan dopis i na kantonalnu vladu, dakle na premijera Ružnića, ali i na općinu Velika Kladuša. Zapravo se cijelo vrijeme pokušavalo, i dok je Miral bio u funkciji, pokušala se iznaći neka druga lokacija, jer ukoliko uzmemo i u obzir i zaključak predsjedništva Bosne i Hercegovine iz 2020. godine o potrebi izmještanja privremenih prihvatnih centara izvan urbanih područja, dakle pokušala se iznaći neka lokacija koja bi se mogla, ali samo u slučaju povećanog priliva, da se može napraviti čak neki improvizovani kamp da se mogu ti ljudi smjestiti. Kaže, imamo jako povoljnu situaciju, ali kada smo gledali DTM, kada je uvaženi kolega predstavljao DTM, kada smo gledali zapadno-balkansku rutu, koliko sjećam, kolega iz Italije, Giorgio je Fruscione je prezentovao situaciju. Vidjeli smo negdje 170% je povećan priliv migranata na zapadno-balkanskoj ruti ove godine u odnosu na prethodnu godinu. Dok je, recimo, istočno-mediteranska ruta prilično mirna, ako sam dobro zapamtio podatke, negdje oko 180.000 pokušaja prelaska u Mađarsku i Srbije, a negdje iz Grčke, odnosno iz Turske ka grčkim ostrvima, negdje je bilo oko 30.000. Kako imamo toliku razliku u brojevima? I mislim da je gospodin Đorđo u jednom trenutku možda i ponudio odgovor, jer se osvrnuo i na bezvizni režim Srbije. Dakle, vidjeli smo jednu zaista diplomatsku, rekao bih, ofanzivu zvaničnika Evropske unije, ali bilateralno Austrije i Mađarske prema Srbiji, jer je Evropska unija identifikovala bezvizni režim Srbije, odnosno usaglašenost viznog režima Srbije sa viznim režimom Evropske unije kao jedan od problema. Dakle, migranti su legalno dolazili u Srbiju i onda pokušavali ilegalno nastaviti put prema zemljama Evropske unije. Recimo, evo, mi smo ove godine imali negdje registrovano oko 4.000 državljana Burundija koji imaju bezvizni režim sa Srbijom. I mislim da se taj broj negdje može otprilike podvesti pod pojačan pritisak u smislu legalnog dolaska, pokušaja ilegalnog odlaska prema zemljama Evropske unije. Evo, Srbija je, koliko znam, već uvela vizni režim državljanima Tunisa i Burundija, obećali su do kraja godine harmonizirati, dakle, svoj vizni režim sa Evropskom unijom i čini mi se, koliko sam negdje pročitao, da će zato dobiti 36 milijuna eura bespovratne pomoći. Dakle, situacija je, evo, prilično stabilna u Bosni i Hercegovini kada govorimo o ovim kretanjima, ali moram se samo osvrnuti na još jednu stvar koju je govorio gospodin Đorđo, kada je govorio o medijskom izvještavanju. Ne znam imamo li dalje ovdje predstavnika medija ili nemamo, ali ono što je jako interesantno bilo, a to je kada sam pročitao izvještaj Udruženja BiH novinara koji su analizirali medijsko izvještavanje o temi migracija i izbjeglica u Bosni i Hercegovini u 2019. godini. Ono do čega su oni došli, dakle, jeste da su mnoge informacije koje su plasirane u javnost bile neprovjerene prije nego što su plasirane, da su migranti na neki način bili stigmatizirani takvim medijskim izvještavanjem. Upravo je, mislim, cilj da imamo zaista pravu sliku oko toga šta se dešava u Bosni i Hercegovini, da javnosti šaljemo jasne podatke, da javnosti šaljemo i prikazujemo jasnu situaciju o tome šta se dešava u Bosni i Hercegovini po tom pitanju. Kažem, evo, nekako mi je ta njegova prezentacija u ovom dijelu koji se tiče medijskog izvještavanja, onako sam se sjetio i ovog izvještaja koji, kažem, je neki način ukazao na stigmatiziranje migranata, jer su vrlo često prikazivani i kao kriminalci i kao, ne znam, koje druge riječi da prikažem, a zapravo mislim da je Radio Slobodna Evropa uradio jedno istraživanje gdje su, čim se u 2019. godini sagledali ukupan broj počinjenih krivičnih djela u Bosni i Hercegovini. Sad koliko se sjećam tih podataka, da je u 2019. godini počinjeno 17.272 krivična djela, a da su za samo 222 krivična djela bili osumnjičeni zapravo migranti. Dakle, to govori o tome, o to nekoj disproporciji tih krivičnih djela koja su počinjena od strane migranata u Bosni i Hercegovini. Naravno, ne možemo posmatrati, niti posmatramo državljane Bosne i Hercegovine, ne možemo reći da su svi kriminalci, isto tako i migranti. Dakle, to su zapravo ljudske priče. Evo, mi smo do sada registrali, čini mi se, oko 107.000 migranata od početka 2018. godine do danas. To je 107.000 migranata, 107.000 različitih priča. Evo, gledali smo i slušali smo o faktorima koji migrante na neki način, to push faktori zbog kojih migranti napuštaju svoje zemlje porijekla. Čuli smo da su to različiti faktori. Evo, govorimo i o sigurnosti. Mislim da je bar prema ovom izvještaju negdje 43%, koliko sjećam, da su rat i nesigurnost, dakle ta sigurnosna situacija bili pokretačka snaga migracija, pa onda na drugom mjestu je bilo ta ekonomska situacija. Vidjeli smo da su migracije zaista dinamične i nepredvidive. Evo, pogledajte koliko samo jedna odluka može doprinijeti do migracijskih kretanja. Ukoliko pogledamo rat u Ukrajini, mislim da smo, ne znam, jesmo pominjali Ukrajinu, mislim da jesmo. Odluka o mobilizaciji državljana Rusije je preko noći dovela, dakle, do masovnih migracijskih kretanja, jer su državljani Rusije pokušali napustiti Rusiju u što skorijom roku. Koliko sjećam, prema izvještajima da se tražila karta više iz Moskve za Beograd, odnosno čini se 3 leta da imaju iz Rusije prema Srbiji, da su ljudi plaćali po 20.000 eura, mislim, to mi zvuči apsolutno nevjerovatno, ali čini mi se prema nekom medijskom izvještavanju da se toliki iznos plaćali karte. I u tom smislu, koliko god se neko pripremao za efikasan odgovor, nikada ne znate zapravo sa kakvim fenomenom se možete susresti. Kažem, situacija je zaista trenutno povoljna, možemo upravljati njome i imamo dovoljno mjesta u privremenim prihvatnim centrima i kažem, što je najvažnije, imamo veoma mali broj migranata koji borave izvan privremenih prihvatnih centara i vjerujte, evo, samo kada gledamo sigurnost samih migranata, mislim da im se ta sigurnost može na najbolji način pružiti unutar privremenih prihvatnih centara. Hvala.
Yeah, if I can add something, the challenge that we will go through the project BRAT is related to some specific needs of the people that are crossing through Bosnia and Herzegovina and are in need of specific accommodation because of their personal situation that sometimes cannot treat inside the temporary reception centers. So we will, as I said, try to working together with the local community, with the municipalities, of course, the canton, all the institutions at every kind of level, and of course the Center for Welfare, Centar za socijalni rad, try to do our best to create some facilities like one in BiH, one in Sarajevo, and supporting one already ongoing in Tuzla that is run by the NGO Puj from Tuzla. And these places, as I said already, will be not only for migrant population, but again, for the people in need that is in Bosnia and Herzegovina. There is another topic that is very interesting that must be developed, and it's what about the people that wants to stay in Bosnia and Herzegovina? Some of these numbers that we have been seeing are persons that want to remain in this country, applied for asylum procedure, and are on the process of ongoing asylum. Some of them already got papers to stay. So these are also people that still need some kind of help in understanding maybe the culture, the place, working on the cohesion in the places where these people will be. So for example, these safe houses can be also one kind of temporary and forced place where these people can stay while they find their forever home in this country. There is, as already mentioned, Laura, the NGO from Kakani, Alternativa, that is working on the accommodation, and in these days they are accommodating the first family that stay here in Bosnia in this apartment they have. So they're all, how to say, praxis that we are trying to see how much are possible here. Of course, when it's up to our countries like Italy, for example, we have a different history of migration. We are dealing with this since 30 years and more. And so we have a different history of success and history of something that must not be replied. And I would like to remind that we are not here to teach what is good to do and what Bosnia and Herzegovina has to do. But again, we can give some support and say, don't do that because we already failed. This is something that I would like to remind. And there is another thing that we are trying to develop to the BRAT project that is related to the so-called daily centers. There are some already ongoing. There is one in Velika Kladuša run by EMMAUS that is partner of BRAT, of course. Another one in Tuzla again. There are other models of daily center. There are in Sarajevo. There is Integrate, for example, here. There is Compass that are leading some spaces. JRS is somehow trying to develop activities in, as I said, some of these cities like BiH, Sarajevo, and Tuzla again. And they are good models. So what I can say again is that we would like through this project to bring good models that can work, that can function, that can help all the people on the move, organization, and the local people to deal together with this topic. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We still have a few minutes. We have a question from the public. The microphone is there. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Maud Lacour, and I work for the UNHCR, which is the UN Refugee Agency, which is a close partner of IOM, of course. So thank you very much for the invitation, and thank you everyone for the very interesting presentations on how to address mixed migration. So as I would have more of a comment linked to everything that has been just said now. As you said, so mixed migration imply that people on the move have very various good reasons to move, to flee their country, and some of them indeed flee war or persecution. It was really well highlighted by both colleagues, like saying 43% fleeing war or conflict. It's a really high share of those persons, and of course there are persons of concern to UNHCR specifically because they have specific vulnerabilities and also specific rights according to international law. And so UNHCR, of course, works really closely with Bosnian authorities, and we think it's really important to advocate for for those persons who want to stay, you were also highlighting that some want to stay, some wants to seek asylum here. And it's really important that those who genuinely are interested in asylum here in Bosnia are identified like at the earliest possible manner, and also those vulnerable, and that there is effective access to the asylum procedure that is ensured in Bosnia. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Hello, thank you, Sylvia, for mentioning our organization. I'm the representative and CEO of Integrate Center, and I'm doing this what we was talking about. So now in my NGO, we are protecting 7 asylum seekers, and the representative of SFA are now talking about that. There is capacity that people are staying in the reception centers. I agree about this for the people who are just in the transit, but there are people who really wants to stay in Bosnia, and this is a fact. Just in 2021, we was hosting and helping with safe housing almost 20 people, and those were also people who was for LGBTQ community or very vulnerable categories. Now we host 6 asylum seekers, and we was providing them legal addresses, completely legal. So we are registered them, so SFA knows exactly where they are staying. So this is not a safe house that they are all living together. Our concept is that they live everyone alone in their own apartments, which is supported from Integrate. And we do all the integration process with them. They have legal support, they have education, they learn the language. We was the first one who was providing Bosnian lessons for asylum seekers outside of reception centers. So this is already existing, and I'm really happy that now other organizations are talking about that. Just I would like that BRAT now also consider existing capacities on the ground and support those who are already doing that. As Silvia mentioned, we have 2 daily centers in Sarajevo, mine and also Compass, and Kakan is already existing. I think it's also good to support already going on projects and and also do in other places, because in this way we can be in the social part we can be stronger and show also to the state that there are maybe small NGOs who has this capacity to show this integration process. And I would like that they see us as partners and not someone who show we are protectors of the migrants and migration on the other way. We are really someone who tried to take people out from the streets. This is exactly what I said. All these 20 people that we was hosting in safe housing, they was not on the street. We gave them chance to make some pocket money, to work with us, to be in the center, so they are not on the street. In this moment, we put them out of the view of the public, and I think we did a good job with that. So thank you again.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your proposal in keeping in the consideration, of course, also the existing scenario. Just a comment from you, and then a question from Caritas Bosne and Herzegovina.
Čini se da moram pojasniti nešto, da ne bismo na neki način imali pogrešno mišljenje ono što sam rekao. Kada govorim o migrantima koji borave izvan privremenih prihvatnih centara, ja samo mislim na one migrante koji razapnu šator negdje u šumi, koji borave, uđu ispod nekog stepeništa ili u neku napuštenu fabriku ili negdje. Ja mislim na te migrante kada sam govorio o njihovoj sigurnosti i sve drugo. A naravno da postoji potreba da se pojedine kategorije migranata smještaju i to zaista i funkcioniše i to nikada nije bilo upitno ni sa naše strane, niti sa vaše koji takvu vrstu podrške pružate. Mislim, evo, imali smo osobu koja je imala priznat izbjeglički status, koja je bila u kolicima, koja je bila invalid. Mnogi od vas će se možda sjetiti tog slučaja kada mu nismo mogli pružiti adekvatnu podršku i pomoć u prihvatnom centru u kojem je boravio. Prvo je boravio u Sedri, poslije je bio prebačen u Borića, na kraju je upravo iznađena ovakva mogućnost da se smjesti negdje gdje će on moći, gdje će taj smještaj moći zadovoljiti njegove potrebe, imajući u obzir činjenicu da je gospodin bio u kolicima, da je bio nepokretan. Ove stvari su jako bitne. Mi nekada imamo problem, evo recimo kada imamo maloljetnika bez pratnje, kada uključimo i centar za socijalni rad, kada se uključimo I kada se odredi staratelj i tako dalje, šta da uradimo sa tim djetetom? Kažem djetetom jer je evo maloljetnik i bez pratnje. Kakvu pomoć, podršku da mu pružimo ukoliko mi navečer u 10 ili 11 sati kad se to desi nemamo mogućnost da ga smjestimo negdje tu, niti postoji neka mogućnost da ga u tom trenutku transportujemo prema nekom smještaju koji mu se može tada ponuditi. I mislim da je, evo pomenuli ste Sarajevo, Tuzla, Bihać, mislim da postoje određene inicijative da se u Tuzli još nešto pored puža koji zaista funkcioniše i koji pruža značajnu podršku. I evo vidim tu i gospodu iz Caritasa koji klimaju glavom, koji zapravo podržavaju taj projekat. Mislim da je to jako važno, da imamo takve vrste kapaciteta, vrlo mali ograničenih kapaciteta, gdje ćemo moći tim ljudima pružiti tu prvu vrstu podrške i pomoći kako bi oni mogli, kako bismo, ajde kažem, tu situaciju i savladao tada. Međutim, kada govorimo, drago mi je da se javila i gospođa iz UNHCR-a, meni je drago zaista kada vidim da je neko odlučio da dođe i da ostane u Bosni i Hercegovini. U trenutku kada mnogi ljudi odlaze iz Bosne i Hercegovine, dakle, mnogi ljudi su otišli iz Bosne i Hercegovine i kada vidim neku pozitivnu priču, zaista mi bude drago i budem ponosan na to da neko odlučio da dođe u Bosnu i Hercegovinu, da živi i da ostane u Bosni i Hercegovini. Činjenica je da mnogi tražitelji azila samo Bosnu i Hercegovinu vide kao tranzit. To je dakle činjenica. To kada obavite razgovor sa bilo kim od migranata, evo i kroz ove vježbe vidite da oni ne žele tu da ostanu. Ali mi pokušavamo, evo, imamo i projekat jedan sa UNHCR-om, kako zapravo poboljšati profilisanje prilikom same registracije, dakle, migranata, kako poboljšati profilisanje i u onom dijelu izražavanja namjere za traženje međunarodne zaštite u Bosni i Hercegovini, kako poboljšati, odnosno prepoznati stvarne tražitelje azila među migrantima kako bi mogli ući odmah u proceduru azila u Bosni i Hercegovini, koja možda jeste nekada i spora i duga, ali morate uzeti u obzir činjenicu da ukoliko uzmemo ove brojke da je preko 100.000 ljudi prošlo tu, da je većina njih izrazila namjeru za traženje međunarodne zaštite, da je vrlo malo onih koji su zaista to izrazili sa pravom namjerom i htjeli da uđu u tu proceduru da ostanu u Bosni i Hercegovini. Mislim da je Caritas, baš čim se juče ili prekoče sam čitao jedan, mislim da je bilo i na portalima i na Kliksu, upravo su predstavili jedan slučaj migranta koji je bio tu pa je došao do Italije, pa su ga Italijani vratili, ne znam zašto su ga Italijani vratili, ali na kraju završio u Bosni i Hercegovini, ima ta neka pozitivna priča o njemu. Mislim da ima još par nekih pozitivnih priča i kažem zaista, evo kada se neko odluči da ostane u Bosni i Hercegovini, treba mu pružiti podršku, treba mu pružiti i pravnu pomoć i svaku drugu vrstu pomoći, kažem, za one koji zaista žele da ostanu tu, ali mislim, nažalost, evo, iskreno govorim, mislim da je jako mali broj takvih ljudi koji žele da ostanu tu. Sa druge strane, evo, kada govorimo, moram i ovo naglasiti, dakle, mi se postepeno se suočavamo sa nedostatkom radne snage u Bosni i Hercegovini. Ne samo u Bosni i Hercegovini, ta situacija otprilike u cijelom regionu. Ono što smo zabilježili jeste, imali smo sastanke i sa predstavnicima privredne komore, vanjsko-trgovinske komore, oni su govorili da su im se žalili poslodavci da im nedostaje radne snage. I u tom smislu ja mogu reći da je do sada došao određen broj radnika, migranata, koji su došli u legalnim procedurama u Bosni i Hercegovini. Jer govorimo o migrantima koji dolaze iz istih zemalja iz kojih dolaze ovi irregularni migranti koji na nezakonit način ulaze u Bosnu i Hercegovinu. Dakle, imamo veoma pozitivna tu iskustva da se firme obraćaju službama za zapošljavanje, da im pribavljaju radne dozvole, da mi ovjeravamo pozivna pisma, pribavljaju vize, dolaze u Bosnu i Hercegovinu i odobrava im se boravak u Bosni i Hercegovini upravo po osnovu izdate radne dozvole. To su ljudi iz Indije, iz Bangladeša, iz Pakistana, Nepala, iz mnogih zemalja, kažem, iz zemalja porijekla ovih irregularnih migranata koje imamo ovdje. Dakle, šta ovdje kažem? Hajmo promovisati svi legalne načine, zakonite načine dolaska i kretanja migranata. Europska unija to pokušava godinama kada su u pitanju zemlje porijekla migranata, upravo da promoviše zakonite migracije. Jer svi, evo, mislim, većina ljudi i zbog nekih ekonomskih razloga odlazi prema zemljama Europske unije da sebi, svojoj porodici obezbije neke bolje uslove života. Kažem, postoje načini, evo, i ljudi nam dolaze i rade, tu su, dakle, u Bosni i Hercegovini. a sa druge strane imamo ovi koji regularno dolaze i pokušavaju proći. Dakle, neki, možda kažem, da pojedini migranti, radnici migranti, da ih tako nazovem, zaista biraju Bosnu i Hercegovinu u posljednje vrijeme kao svoju krajnju destinaciju, da tu dođu, da rade, da ostane tu, trenutno da ostanu u Bosni i Hercegovini, ali da postoje ti neki trendovi, pozitivni trendovi gdje ljudi zaista vide Bosnu i Hercegovinu kao krajnju destinaciju. Hvala.
Thank you. I would like to give the floor to the director of Caritas Bosne and Herzegovina, Monsignor Tomo Knežević.
Prvo bih rekao lijepa zahvala Vladi Republike Italije, Ministarstvu inozemnih poslova, da su se preko partnerskih organizacija pod vodstvom IPSIA, u koju spadamo i Caritas Bosne i Hercegovine, Caritas Italije, Crveni križ Bosne i Hercegovine i Italije, stati iza nas i ukazati nam povjerenje u prevažnoj odgovornosti za ljude u pokretu i na prostoru Bosne i Hercegovine. Mi smo svjesni da Bosna i Hercegovina je zemlja, kako ovaj val migranata nije prvi puta na ovim prostorima. Vodeći Caritas u vrijeme rata, svi mi u svim Caritasima, to su bila 3 u Sarajevu, Mostaru i u Banja Luci, na svim prostorima i svim politikama i svim vojskama imao je otvorena vrata i kad vam dođe noću 1000 izbjeglica prognanih, morate ih prihvatiti, zbrinuti, da ljudi nešto rade i brojne sadržaje kako bi se kasnije vratili na svoja ognjišta i to je još uvijek veliki problem za državu, siromašnu državu Bosnu i Hercegovinu. Međutim, ovdje bi se osvrnuo na projekat BRAT i sve nas koji radimo, i one koji su u projektu i one koji nisu u projektu. Dvije su stvari bitne. Ponašanje nas koji radimo za ovaj dio populacije na prostoru Bosne i Hercegovine, imamo li ljudske solidarnosti, osjećaja za te ljude ili ih gledamo onako kako mediji su često puta, oprostite na izrazu, uneredili ovo podneblje gledajući i karakterizirajući politički. To je jako puno odmoglo svima nama koji smo zakonom svojih dekreta ili svojih skupština dobili povjerenje da se brinemo bez financijske potpore, moleći potporu izvana za ove ljude u pokretu. Ja ću ispričati samo u ime Caritasa, mislim da je tako u svim organizacijama predivni doživljaj. Prije 2 mjeseca imali smo na Vlašiću radionicu oko prilike 30 naših djelatnica većinom i bio jedan migrant koji je naš djelatnik, u Tuzli živi i radi, govori naš jezik. Vjerujete li, sve te osobe koje rade za migrante, kad su pripovjedale brojne sadržaje, one su plakale. A druga stvar, migrant je rekao, mi te ljude koji rade za nas nazivamo majkama ili tetama nego. I kad oni priđu u granice svete, pa dođu u Francusku, u Italiju i tako dalje, nazovu i kažu, ako vam šta treba, javite. Toliko je bilo dobrih ljudskih komplimenata. Oni su ovo donijeli sa sobom iz svoje kulture i prepoznali ljubav nas koji radimo za njih. Dobro, druga stvar je prevažna. Ovo rade ljudi u našim organizacijama, ja govorim u ime Caritasa, bez potpore Caritasove mreže, ovdje ću posebno pohvaliti Caritas Italije, sve te stvari ne bismo mogli ostvariti. Bez svega toga ti ljudi, jer mi od države doslovno nismo dobili ništa, osim iskrene velike hvale koju ću kasnije izreći za institucije sigurnosti i institucije za rada sa strancima koji pokazuju jednu veliku širinu i odgovornost za sve djelatnike, reći ću Caritasa, i ako nemamo legitimitet da uđemo u kampove. Umjesto da čekamo po tjedan dana, mi dobijemo za 15 minuta pozitivan odgovor i doće predsjednik Caritasa Europe, Monsignor Landau, s cijelom ekipom, prijave se, ne prijave se na vrijeme, sve za 15 minuta savršeno. Znači, odgovornost drugoga dijela je državnih struktura na svim razinama, a znamo da u Bosni i Hercegovini situacija nije ista. Ovdje se stalno spominje Tuzla. Jasno, bihački džep zbog lipe je medijski, do danas dan se troši, a migranata je najviše oko Sarajeva, a zaboravljamo Tuzlu. O Tuzli je lijepo pričaju građani Tuzle, kaže, daj Bože da svi mirišemo kao što mirišu migranti. Caritas im pere robu, a radi Alma i radi Ivana zajedno sa svojim autom u saradnji isto tako i sa Merhametom. Ja bih ovdje apelirao na sve nas u zahvalu Republici Italiji, svim organizacijama, da ćemo zajednički nositi odgovornost, neće nam biti lako, prvo da se dogovorimo, drugo da provedemo na dobro tog jadnog čovjeka da ne umre pred našim vratima. Mi nismo odgovorni za politiku, političari neka vode politiku bez nas i govorimo o Caritasu gdje je politika, nema nas. A mi znamo da u jednom trenutku bila je politika itekako prisutna unutar samo Unsko-Sanskog kantona i unutar samog graničnog područja Unsko-Sanskog kantona i Republike Hrvatske. Nama to u Caritasu ne treba. Nama treba čovjek po poslanju koji su nam dali naši biskupi da pomognemo čovjeku u nevolji. Kao što smo radili u vrijeme Nata i Poraća, uz potporu naših prijatelja iz raznih Caritasove mreži, i katolika i nekatolika koji imaju povjerenja, moramo ostvariti svoje poslanje u Bosni i Hercegovini. Mislim da imamo kapaciteta, jer duša bosansko-hercegovačkog čovjeka je takva da želi pomoći i čovjeka koji je u strašnoj nevolji. A često puta ta zatrovanost medijska gdje se iznose poluistine, istine samo odmažu nama u našem radu. Mi na poteškoće smo nailazili, ali one su bile rješive. Apeliram na sve nas koji nismo u politici da nastavimo onim poslanjem koji imamo, a s druge strane vama u politici budite na pomoć u granicama zakonske regulative, jer se sve drugo donosi u skupštinama, u uredima, bez da nas išta pitaju. Hvala vam lijepo.
Thank you very much, dear director. And there is a comment more. Jasmina, yes. And then the representative of the Red Cross. Thank you.
Dobar dan svima, moje ime je Jasmina Ovčina, dolazim iz italijanske organizacije CISP. Ja znam da sve ove organizacije, IPSIA i italijanski i bosansko-hercegovački Caritas IOM rade puno, ali bih pohvalila jedan ovakav događaj kada se dijele rezultati vaših aktivnosti, jer nam je to jako bitno, zato što i mi koji se ne bavimo direktno migrantima, ali radimo na projektima socijalne inkluzije, upravo zahvaljujući podacima da postoje institucije, da postoje centri, pojedinci, organizacije koje pružaju ove usluge, uspijevamo to podijeliti sa našim kolegama u Italiji i nije samo Ministarstvo vanjskih poslova i kooperacije ili Italijanska razvojna agencija ta koja je potpomaže ove aktivnosti. Mnoge regije, mnogi gradovi iz Italije su uključili, evo mi smo svjedoci regije Emilia Romagna koja je prošle godine u vrijeme COVID-a obezbijedila sredstva da se upravo ovim organizacijama koje postoje na području Bihaća, Tuzle i Sarajeva pomogne migrantima, jer ima jako puno pojedinaca koji aktivno djeluju i koji pomažu, koji uključuju migrante. I bilo je stvarno, dolazim sa područja Tuzle, bilo lijepo vidjeti kad su migranti bili uključene u aktivnosti pomaganja našim povratnicima u Srebrenicu. Pohvalila bih njihov rad, radujem se projektu i radujem se saradnji.
Thank you, Jasmina. Thank you very much. And thank you for having underlined also the governmental support from regions and cities from Italy that is really, really relevant. The representative of the Red Cross, thank you.
Moje ime je Husein Kutić, dolazim iz Unsko-Sanskog kantona. Čovjek koji je od prvog dana 2018. godine do danas svakodnevno prisutan na prostoru migrantske krize kao volonter, to se razumijemo. Mogu samo da kažem da se zahvalim vladi Italije, Crvenom križu Italije, i koja je sama od prvog dana počeo od ovih podjela krajeva, pa do današnjih dana, evo vidimo, razvijamo se u moderne projekte. Mogu samo da kažem da je moja reprezentacija nastavna je Crveni križ, struktura Crvenog križa u Bosni i Hercegovini bila prva koja je izašla na teren i prva pružila pomoć ljudima u migracijama i ušla u partnerstvo prva sa IOM-om, Balkan Route Accoglienza, Transito. Sa politikom ili bez politike, svakako mi smo partneri države i državnih vlada i mi se radimo u skladu kao partneri bez petljanja u odluke u politiku i tako dalje, ali nekad smo svi mi zajedno faktori toga događaja, pa onda sigurno moramo raditi neki balans da bi to bolje implementirali sve ono što želimo. Jedan od primjera koji želim da kažem jeste, da kažem samo jedan primjer da je za nepunih 5 dana timovi Crvenog križa su uspjeli, zahvaljujući našim partnerima iz Italije, iz Njemačke i Švicarske, uspjeli nabaviti opremu i pripremati 15.000 obroka dnevno. To nije mala stvar, ako neko misli da je 15.000 obroka dnevno pripremiti, distribuirati, dostaviti, baš tako jednostavno nije. Trebate velika oprema, veliki ljudi, educirani ljudi i tako dalje. Sve smo mi to uz ove turbulencije koje ste naravno gledali kroz televiziju, ponosno mogu da kažem, uspjeli zajedno sa svojim partnerima, odnosno zajedno sa vama svima, da nije nas. Mi smo jedan rotor koji se okreće u jednom pravcu s ciljem da poboljšamo stanje migranata i ljudi koji ulaze u Bosnu i Hercegovini. Svaki put nastaje želja, nastaje želja, da kažem da i projekat BRAT treba da prepozna, jer već ima jedan kontinuitet rada u Bosni i Hercegovini, treba da prepozna određene organizacije koje imaju kapacitete i koje se mogu baviti sa načinom i radom ispravnosti projekta koji ima svoj cilj. Znači mi imamo svoje resurse, imamo svoje ljude, što je najbitnije, sva oprema kroz projekte koja se nabavlja, ostaje tim organizacijama koje djeluju u ovoj zemlji Bosni i Hercegovini i nažalost, kolege, da vam kažem, vi ćete vi jednog dana se vratiti u svoje zemlje, nama je ostati i živjeti u ovoj zemlji i sve što mi kroz ove projekte obrazujemo i ujačamo počev od ljudskih resursa, kapaciteta, to će ostati za budućnost pružanja pomoći našim građanima, pa i migrantima koji dobiju naše državljanstvo, pa i u situacijama elementarnih i drugih nepogoda gdje je Crveni križ u skladu sa zakonom u timama spredavanja. Naš cilj i moj cilj kod sve projekte, da kažem, na kraju jeste ako spasimo jedan život i u Crvenom križu se osjećamo kao da smo spasili cijeli svijet. Hvala.
Thank you very much. The time is flying, so if there are no urgent questions, I would close up the event. Just reminding what I was saying at the beginning. So my wish was that this conference is looking toward common solutions, avoiding non-constructive criticism. And I think a lot of this has been achieved. All the speakers from the institutions, from the international organization, from the NGOs have contributed positively in sharing their knowledge and in building sustainable solution for the migration management here in Bosnia and Herzegovina. I want to thank you all for the very actively and careful participation. I want to thank the people online, which were following, I hope, in a good way, all these talks and speeches. And of course, I want to invite you all to share the lunch with us. It will be in the lobby behind me, and we will have the time again for bilateral speaks and for talks also during the lunchtime. Thank you really very much, and see you next time.